I helped get a janitor fired for sucking at his job. I, 22M, work as an IT guy in a school district. Before the beginning of this school year, we got a second shift janitor, more or less a night janitor, transferred to my home building, which we will call N39M for pseudonymous reference. He started in the building right before the beginning of the year. So much so that he was still training after the first day. He was working over the summer in another building before being transferred here. Will be important later. Things were okay for the first couple of weeks until one Monday near the end of September when I was called into the custodian's office. The new guy can't access his email. After a thorough examination, I discovered that he still needed to be given a license to use the email application. I explained that I must call the board to get him a permit, as average techs can't simply assign them as needed, cost-saving measure. We eventually got him a license. My email to the person who gave the permit was lost, and I explained to him again that I couldn't give him the license as a part of my apology for the lateness. Unbeknownst to me, this was my first sign that N is a Wa, hence his pseudonym reference. Bonus points if you get where that's from. The following week, I came in early, usually because I struggle with sleeping, and saw the head custodian, 25M, walking around the building, taking pictures along the halls. I see piles of dirt and debris all over the hall. Like big stuff. Pencils, wrappers, etc. all over the school. I asked the head custodian, with whom I am good friends, what's with all the debris? He sucks at his job, was his response. But you trained him yourself. I started hesitantly. I know, he answered, very frustrated. You saw it yourself. He just sucks. He just doesn't put in the effort. He says he gets it, but he doesn't. Mind you, the head custodian was known for trying to clean the school. This dude made sure it was spotless before he left for the night when he worked as a second shift custodian. He continued working until all of it was done. He didn't mess around when it came to doing his job. So, he gave it his all in training and in janitorial work's sacred and mystical arts. So you can understand his dismay and frustration. I encourage him to offer some more training. The head custodian assured me that he would mention it to him. He then said that when I was getting his email straight, he later called his wife, mid to late 20s F, who works in another school in the same district, to find out who my boss was so he could complain that I wasn't giving him a license so he can check his email. This was after I explained to him why I couldn't just give it to him myself. I was initially shocked until I remembered that I used to work with salespeople, so this was not news to me. He would continue to do this until N was let go. To say his behavior had gotten worse would be an understatement. His petulant behavior and attitude worsened more and more during his tenure here. I could go in all day, but to give you an idea of some of his behavior. She habitually got snappy with other people when asked questions or offered correction. We tried to get our cafeteria manager, who had worked in my building since I went there as a student, fired for throwing out and used strawberry milk, citing that she was wasting tax money. We later found out that she threw them out because they had expired, and she didn't want to risk giving the kids food poisoning. I threw a fit at the head custodian for mentioning missed spots on the floor before clocking out, not 5 minutes after clocking in and speeding off, going way over the speed limit in a school/residential area. Repeatedly expressed to teachers that their rooms will not be cleaned if markers, pencils, and whatnot are all over the floor, citing, "If they don't care, I don't care." He was making up bogus excuses for not doing work. At one point, he claimed that he had sprained his wrist from using the vacuum cleaner. They were making racist remarks about Native Americans, specifically regarding syphilis sheets, to the head custodian, who is part Native American. I am reasonably tolerant, so I let it go, even when he tried to get me in trouble for something I couldn't do. I believe in live and let live. If he doesn't do anything directly to me, then I will just leave it be and ignore him. But what finally broke me was when he was given an opportunity for retraining after a meeting with the head custodian, the principal, and the head of the custodial department. They all knew he was adequately trained by the head custodian at his last building and our head custodian, but figured they would at least give him another chance. On the first day of retraining, he misses a trash can to empty. When the head custodian very politely informed him of this, and snapped and shouted, "I know what the fuck I am doing." This would be a minor deal except for two important facts. The first is that the school nurse, the substitute secretary, and our regular secretary heard this. The second and most important time was when students were present during traditional instruction. This is in a school with elementary students current, all the way down to pre-K. Naturally, he was reprimanded for this by the nurse and the regular secretary. Now, you'd think he would get the hint and keep himself in check. But no. Nearly any time he was corrected, he would start cussing out the head custodian. The head custodian took pains maintaining professionalism in front of the students and staff. He never raised his voice or shot back anything to this idiot as he was losing his mind at relearning his job, which he requested to do so he wouldn't get fired. Though the second he knew he was alone with the raging buffoon of a second shift janitor, the head custodian made it clear that he could and would destroy him in a fight if it came to it. Upon hearing this, and that he had received no actual punishment, I was properly pissed. This man, who I am forced to work with, gets to act like a complete jackass and nothing is done. Meanwhile, if I were to do any of this, I would be, rightfully, fired. I mentioned this to my boss, who encouraged me to write a formal complaint, which I did. It gets kicked up to the chief of operations, where it will sit until he gets fired near the end of November. We do this little lunch so parents can have Thanksgiving dinner with their kids in school. It is a part of his job to help the head custodian set up for this event, which he refuses to do because, get this, it will take away time to do his job. Mind you, this is a part of his job. Upon hearing this on the event day, I offer to help. He reluctantly accepts, seeing no other options. We managed to get everything set up in under 15 minutes. A couple of middle schoolers joined us along the way to make it go faster. The event went well. Upon hearing this, N tries to take credit for setting up. No one believes him or cares, and he gives the head custodian sole credit for the event's success. I don't care, so long as N didn't get any credit for work he didn't do. You may wonder why it took them so long to fire him with the mountains of evidence confirming that he was not doing his job. I was wondering this too. This guy was a self-admittedly vexatious litigant. I would sue over just about anything if you made him upset enough. Upon discovering this, the directive was given to mount as much official documentation as possible so that if that day comes, they will have an easier time fighting it. But the day did come. He was shown mountains of evidence regarding his conduct, my complaint included, and was fired. But he wasn't done with us. After a few weeks, he returns to work as if he had yet to be fired. Those of us who knew the drama were freaked out by this. I was psyching myself up if he decided to pull out a weapon. It took the head of custodial to come down, take his badge and time clock card, and tell him to get lost. He had tried to square up against the head of custodial on school property, with a cop on the premises. The head of custodial is over 6 feet tall and goes to the gym religiously. He ultimately decides against it and just leaves. There's more to it, but this is as succinct a summary as I can give about the time I helped, barely, to get someone fired for sucking balls at his job. Share your thoughts in the comments and follow for more interesting stories.